Okay, 8th grade, happy Friday. We're back in our writing packet today. This is going to be our last lesson this week. We only have 2 more weeks left after today, so we're almost done for the summer. So we're on page 15 here today. As always, we're starting with the journal entry, which is going to be completely independent. How many paragraphs do we write for this? 1. How many sentences is in a paragraph? 5 to 7. So today it asked you, what would you invent to make everyday life better? Describe the problem that needs to be solved and how your invention would solve it. So this could be about anything that you want. It could be having to do with the current state of our world right now. What could we invent that would make everything better? Whatever you want it to be about. So it could be something that would make basketball a little bit better. It could be something that would make something that you like to do a little bit easier, maybe something that your parents have you do. What would make that easier? So you need to write 5 to 7 sentences, which is 1 paragraph, all about what you would invent to make your life better. So let's take a look at page 16 here, and we're going to go through this together. Almost exited out here. We're going to go through this together, and then we will do the guided practice, and then you guys will do page 18 on your own. So today we're talking about participle phrases. So we've been talking about adverb phrases, all of those kinds of things. So today we're talking about a participle phrase. So a participle phrase is made up of a participle and other words that complete its meaning. Like a participle phrase, like a participle phrase functions as an adjective. So if we go back, we know that a participle is a type of verbal that functions as an adjective. So that is, the verbal is what? A verbal is a word that is usually a verb, but it's being used as either a noun, adjective, or adverb. So the participle is the one that functions as an adjective. So if we go back here and look at participle phrases, this is just taking that word that functions as an adjective. It's usually a verb, but functions as an adjective, ends in ing, ed, or en. It says a participle phrase can contain a present or past participle. So just like we talked about last time we were in our writing packet here, in the deep sea, you can see fish glowing in the dark. They're currently glowing. Glowing will, if it's present participle, it'll end with that ing. Past participle will end with the ed or the en or something along those lines. So the example they give us is, equipped with cameras, divers look for these fish. So in the first sentence above, the participle phrase, glowing in the dark, modifies fish because it's what type of fish? The kind that glows in the dark, right? So in the second sentence, the participle phrase, equipped with cameras, modifies divers. What are the divers equipped with? Or what do the divers have? They're equipped with cameras. Or what kind of divers? The kind that are equipped with cameras. That sort of thing. So the thing that makes it a participle phrase is that it has more than one word in it, right? Because the participle would be glowing in the first sentence there. But a participle phrase is glowing in the dark because it just provides us with a little bit of extra information that we didn't necessarily need to understand what was happening in the sentence. So to distinguish a participle phrase from a verb phrase or a gerund phrase, which we've already talked about both of those, look at how it's used in the sentence. If the phrase modifies a noun or a pronoun, it's a participle phrase. If it functions as a verb, it's a verb phrase. If it functions as a noun, it's a gerund phrase. So this is just understanding the differences between participle phrases, verb phrases, and gerund phrases. If it functions as an adjective or describes a noun or pronoun, it is a participle phrase, which is what we're looking at today. So studying deep sea creatures Scientists studying deep sea creatures, what is it modifying? Scientist. Because the kind of scientists that study deep sea creatures. A verb phrase, scientists have been studying, which means they are studying, they're doing the act of studying. This is just saying the kind of scientists that study deep sea creatures. This is just saying the scientists are studying chemical phenomena. This says studying bioluminescence has turned up some surprising facts. This is just a noun. The act or the idea of studying bioluminescence. We know that it functions as a noun because it is the subject of our sentence. So let's take a look at our guided practice here. It says underline the participle phrase in each sentence, then draw an arrow to the noun that it modifies. Well, here I am going to just highlight it because that's easier for me. So it says, hint, a participle phrase can appear before or after the word that it modifies. It can contain nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, and other words and phrases. Here we see bioluminescence is a scientific term that describes light coming from an organism. So, if we have that word describes, that's immediately going to indicate to us what is an adjective. It's a descriptive word. So if we see the word describes, we can assume that we're about to see an adjective or a participle phrase in this case. So our participle phrase is coming from an organism because we have that ing word. We're looking for the ing words or the ed words, because that's going to be our participles. Now, where is the light coming from? From an organism. So it's giving us that extra information. So now we would say, what's coming from an organism? Light. So we have to draw an arrow to that word light because that's the word that the participle phrase is describing. Next, it says, caused by a chemical reaction, bioluminescence can produce different colors from violet to red. Well, we only have one ed or ing word in here, and it's caused. So we know that it's going to start with cause, but where does the phrase end? Well, just as a hint, it's usually going to end at, not in every case, but if there is a comma, it's probably going to end at the comma, so we have that here. So it's just going to finish off the thought. So caused by a chemical reaction. Okay, now what is caused by a chemical reaction? That's how we know what it's modifying. So what is caused by a chemical reaction? Bioluminescence, which is just a science term. So there, our participle phrase is caused by a chemical reaction, and it's modifying the word bioluminescence. So the next one says, animals producing their own light are called bioluminescent. So we have the word producing and called. Well, if they are being called something, what is this word functioning as? A verb. It's still functioning as a verb. So it's not a verb functioning as an adjective, which would be a participle. It's not a participle here. This is just a verb. So we know that producing is our participle here. But where does that participle phrase end? Producing their own light. Finish off the thought. Producing their own light. Now, what is producing their own light? Animals. So this is modifying the word animals. The next sentence says, flickering on a summer's night, a firefly is an example of a bioluminescent insect. So we have only the word flickering, so that's going to be our participle. Now, what is our participle phrase? Again, it's if there's a comma, it's usually going to end at that comma. So flickering on a summer's night. What is flickering on a summer's night? The firefly. Right. So it is modifying the word firefly. The last one says, photographs taken in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean show creatures that seem to light up. So we don't see an ED or an ING word there. So what is the other ending that we can have? EN, right? So taken. This one doesn't end at the comma because that comma is being used to make a list, right? It's not being used to break up different parts of the sentence. So if we said taken in, if we took off one of these deepest or darkest, let's just read deepest. Taken in the deepest parts of the ocean, that's the end of that thought. The end says show creatures that seem to light up, but that's not part of our phrase. So what is taken in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean? Photographs. So we are modifying the word photographs here. So now you guys are going to do page 17 on your own. If you guys need anything or have any questions, I'll be available from 11 to 2 for office hours today. Again, make sure you're in the writing packet, and please send me photos of your work because that's the only way that you can get the highly engaged for your grade. If you don't send me pages but you're logging in, you can still get the engaged. But in order to get highly engaged, you have to be sending photos of your work, which many of you are.